Hello and welcome to another episode of the Construction Corner podcast. I'm Dylan, I'm your host, and today I've got three topics to discuss with you. This is some of the Q&A that kind of Matt and I went back and forth on, but I'm just going to answer them here. Yeah, I'm traveling. Whenever you do see this video on YouTube, you can kind of tell I'm in a hotel room traveling. I'm actually in Long Beach. And I can see the ocean from here, which is kind of cool, and all the boats, sailboats, and then like the port of Long Beach. So that's pretty sweet. All the containers, ships, and boats, and just all the commerce that goes through here, which is pretty cool. Couple quick housekeeping things, guys. Is we're now on YouTube, which is pretty cool. Which is why I say if you see this video someday, that hey, that's what it is. So just search the Construction Corner. We've got our own channel. That's what it's called. You'll see some older episodes up there now, and then we're gonna figure out this whole YouTube thing with you guys. So posting some old episodes. We're not quite sure if we post the new ones up with it or just get through the back catalog, and we're probably going to randomly put them up there, not necessarily in any order, but to get them out, post a whole bunch of them. And again, we got to find all the content and go through it that way, since we've just been doing this on audio since I started it, back in 2019, so 4.5 years now. So that's pretty cool. Really the only other housekeeping, guys, is if you like the show, share the show. That's it. We don't ask for anything. We don't charge anything. We don't do any of that, right? Like Matt and I do this out of one, and getting the word out, right? We feel that in construction, y'all need to hear these things. We all need to learn, improve, grow together, right? The rising tide lifts all boats. There's probably going to be a lot of boat analogies because I'm staring at a bunch of boats today. So anyway, the rising tide lifts all boats, lifts all ships, and we want to help to raise the industry, to help you, make you guys better, to help you with some of the things that we're doing and have implemented, that have worked. And again, that's what we're doing this for, right? I feel like being a thought leader and stalwart and outspoken person within the industry is important, and to get this information out there is super critical to improving the industry as a whole. So the three things that I'm going to talk about today are systems and processes. Hopefully you're not too tired of me talking about that kind of stuff. What is the thing that will give you next level value to your clients, and what advice do I have for those starting out? So those are going to be three questions, and we'll go ahead and start to answer them here. All right, so systems and processes. What do you need to know about systems and processes? And how do I think about this? Well, first, you've got to think of systems and processes as a thought process, right? That is what it is. If you don't think of systems and processes in or think about things in a systematic way, in a process driven way, and how you're going to do it, how you're going to outline it, how you're going to have your team to segment it, who does what, uh, then you're really not, it's always going to be ad hoc, right? You're not going to have a standard operating procedure for how you do things. And frankly, in a lot of design firms and the ones that I've worked in, it's always been kind of ad hoc, right? We don't necessarily, this person might start with, and again, I'm going to use electrical design as an example, but you might start with electrical design first, and then you might start with lighting design, then you might do power, then you might do your risers, then you might do tagging and annotations, then you might do low voltage, then you might do or come back and then tag all your light fixtures, right? Then you might do controls, then you might go and do some other system, or you only did it for this wing, or you did the whole wing of the building today, or this week, or you worked on it first of all the systems, then you did the next wing of all the systems, then you did the next wing of all the systems, right? There's no like systematic standard way that you're going to go through a project. And so when you start to think in systems and processes, you're going to have a systematic standard way. And I get that this is very much the engineer in me talking about this, but the way that you can break this down into you do this first, or this person does, the lighting, right? This person does all the power, right? This person works on the riser. This person does all the data and low voltage stuff. This person does all the fire alarm design, right? And again, I get electrical as like a lot of systems, but in mechanical, it'd be like, this person's going to do load. This person's going to model all the ductwork. This person's going to model all the air terminals. This person's going to put in all the BAVs, right? Like there's things like that you can do throughout the project, right? Same in architecture, right? We're going to do all the space planning. Then we're going to come back and put in ceilings. Then we're going to, put in furniture and, however that gets split, with between architecture and interiors. Is the architect actually putting in all the furniture? Is interiors putting in all the furniture? Are we starting to put in whiteboards now or later, right? Like these are the things and the conversations that you can have and do that in a systematic approach to where, who's doing what gets cleared up very early in a project in a process so that you're able to move forward effectively through those projects, through the things that you're looking to do. So the more and more that you systemize and standardize and template a lot of things, right? This is a standard way we lay out a classroom, an office, whatever space, right, that you're doing. You can see storage rooms, bathrooms, right? The more and more standardization that you have and templates for these things, the easier it is to train the next person, the easier it is to walk through a project, the easier it is to and more so to not forget stuff, right? Being a senior engineer, like I understand what needs to go into a project, what needs to go into a building, who's going to do what, but I have the propensity, like anybody else, to forget things in those projects, right? To forget that this needs to be done, right? You'll remember at some point, hopefully, in the project to do it, but we all forget stuff or get busy or whatever. And the more that we have a checklist to just check stuff off, the better off we're going to be, right? It becomes that simple effectively in doing this. So templates, outlines, again, standard operating procedures, things like that are going to be what's going to help you to get through projects faster, right? And so some of this is like in, whether you do it through a spreadsheet, through a Word doc, right? You don't have to overthink this. It can be very simple, very easy, very shareable, right? You can print it off, have a printed copy and everybody checks it off, that kind of stuff. You can do it digitally, right? However you want to go about this, it can be done very quickly and easily. But more so, and again, to go back to the first point, is you have to think in systems. You have to think in processes. You have to document them. And you do that, you think about it, you operate to where, how are we going to put this in a system? How are we going to standardize this? How are we going to put this into a process? Over time, you will become such an effective machine that you're just going to do so much better moving forward. So again, think in systems and processes. All right, number 2. What would be the one thing that if you could do it, it would provide next level value to your clients? So a few clients that I'm working with now, I'm trying to think about, as an electrical engineer, right, doing lighting, power, fire alarm, low voltage, security, access control, right, all the systems that electrical engineers end up having to design in a building, is what are the things that I could do that would provide a differentiator, that would separate me from all my competition? And one of the things that I really got to thinking about is, because we don't understand, or like engineers, historically don't price things, is, by providing price to, or providing pricing or do price schedules, right, and costing throughout the project, right, to have a partner on some of these projects and to be able to provide, estimates that are actual market estimates, right, to work with the electrical contractor to get some actual market pricing for units, right, like a light installation for a receptacle, a panel, right, like to get some of these actual rates, would be to then, as I go through a project, build in pricing schedules so that I understand where our budget needs to be for, electrical or whatever, and then to be able to provide um, alternative design structures for them. And the reason that nobody does this is because the modeling time in a project is high, right? Like lighting, for example. So like, let me just go through the systems real quick in electrical design. So fire alarm, nobody ever VEs. There's like never a VE in fire alarm. You need a device, you need them there. It's a thing everybody gets written up for by the HGA. So you're never gonna like VE a fire alarm system. Not gonna happen. So, okay, fire alarm kind of off the table, right? You're just gonna design it to code, good. Power systems, right? So convenience outlets, panels, disconnects. You need that stuff. You're not going to VE it. The VE in power systems is going from copper to aluminum. That's it, right? Like, and usually it's like from copper to aluminum on your main cabling. That's the VE item. Maybe aluminum bussing in panels, which again, aluminum bussing in panels, I would not recommend. That cause like you're going to have issues down the road because of like heating and cooling cycles or load cycles basically through the panel. And yes, it'll work. They've come a long way in material science to do that, but again, it's not something that I would VE or recommend to VE. The cabling is going to be fine on the by and large, right? Typically, the issue that you run into with cabling for your mains is that they don't get tightened over time, right? Because aluminum expands more than copper does. Basically, you loosen the connection points for aluminum cabling on your main gear, and then over time you're going to have a fault, and then your main gear explodes, and you're down for 6 months to get it replaced. So, like again, don't recommend doing it, but like so long as you have a maintenance staff that's on board with it and understands that you have aluminum cabling and is able to take the gear down, once every couple of years to tighten those screws, you're going to be in good shape. So, power systems really don't get VE'd. Data systems, it's not the data cabling necessarily that ever gets VE'd. It's like the maybe speaker systems or some of the technology, right? Like, not doing TV or projectors, right? You do TVs instead. So ultimately, no data systems ever get VE'd either. And then really the only thing that ends up getting VE'd where design iterations are crucial is lighting. But again, that means you have to do with lighting, you've got to do calculations for every single room to figure out spacing to then place them. And then you have to do that for every room. And you know, go through that whole process. You get counts, you then have to do costs. And that is a lot of work. The thing with like my software is that work becomes very minimal to give different scenarios for the, again, if you're doing costing and having a partner to do that to where you can do these scenarios to where you're using software to do your layouts and you do them for all your rooms across the entire project, which is what my software does, would then allow you to give 3 distinct light fixture pricing for like troffers throughout the entire building. So when you do this, you then have very distinct prices, which then allows you to make design decisions, which allows the owner to sign off and to keep budget, right? Because the 3 things that we ultimately care about in construction is cost, right? Cost, schedule, and quality. And by and large, choosing one light fixture over another, depending on layouts and stuff like that, for sure it'll have a price implication, right? That's pretty straightforward. There potentially can be a schedule implication, right? If we basically up the amount of light per fixture and you go from 12 to 8 in every room, then you're going to have, a 30% increase in productivity because it's not going to take as long to install them all, right? So then it could have a schedule implication, probably does have a schedule implication. And then a quality, well, it may or may not go down, right? It depends on, there's some engineering pieces behind that to decide whether that's a good idea or not. So with this, right, in the triangle, you have, price, quality, and schedule, and then you have to balance those 3, make choices. But if, an electrical engineer was to be able to provide 3 different lighting packages, solutions across an entire building, that would be extremely valuable for an owner. Just historically, it's effectively labor and time prohibitive to do that, to give 3 different scenarios, again, because of just how much time that would take to design, layout, and then provide pricing for it. There's ways to do things like that. But maybe it's not that, right? Maybe you can do a granular schedule of, to the percentage point, how far along are you in the project, right? You assign an allocation of like, well, how much, what percent complete is lighting if I model all the lights, right? What else do I have to do? Uh, let's just say in a given room, like I've done my calculations, I model the lights, is that 30, 50, 60%, and then tagging them, circuiting them, right? Is that 10% each, right? What's the value there in the percent complete? So then you allocate those percentages to each different item within each different system across the entire project in each room. And then you build a front end to show percent complete for the whole project, broken down by system, broken down by room, broken down by each thing that you have to do, right? It's massive spreadsheet to then give a dashboard to then show percent complete. How valuable would that be, right? Like these are the types of things that you can start to ask and to figure out, right? Like if you did that in construction, where you took every single room, you took every single system, you took provided a percent complete for every single system in the building that you would do. So let's just take a given, like, well, I'm in a hotel room, so let's take that as an example. So you have, flooring, right? Are the floors in? Are the walls in? Are the ceilings in? You know, percent complete on each of those. Then you have uh, like carpet, then you have furniture, then you have electrical, you have HVAC, you have, and you could break down electrical between lighting, power, and data if you're doing any hard data connections into the room. Fire alarm pieces, sprinklers, smoke detectors, speakers, FF&E for not just furniture, but then like bathroom appliances, right? Like are the soap dispensers in, right? Like artwork, all the other little pieces in the room, right? Is the fridge installed? And so you can have checklists for the room and do all the pieces in a spreadsheet to where if you feed it all back through, it then creates basically you could feed it to where it's a dashboard to say that, well, the building is, 5% complete, 10% complete, 80% complete, 90% complete. Hey, we only have these 2 rooms left to complete in the entire building, and these are the things that are missing, and I can do it from a spreadsheet, right? Things like that would allow you to be super effective in doing actual percent completes across the entire project. And then you could do, pay apps and everything else in accordance to that effectively. So, like, start to think about what are the things that if you could do it, right? If time, money, effort, energy weren't an issue, what would be the things that would enhance? And it's really, your systems and processes, right? But really, it's communication to the owner. Does this affect price? Does this affect schedule? Does this affect quality? Right? Or what are these 3? Does this affect? And quality can also be quality of communication, not just quality of product, but like quality of communication, quality of life on the job, right? Is everybody pissed off and stressed, or are they like happy to be there? Like they understand where everything's at, right? They understand the progress of it. They're not worried about this thing or that thing throughout the project. So again, we all know that not everything goes well on a project, but we all understand the difference between a project that's running well and a project that, shit just hit the fan and everybody is pissed the entire time. So again, this is really for you to think on. I gave a couple examples that I'm, implementing and have implemented within, my designs for clients that I'm working with. But again, is to think about what can take you to the next level, what can provide additional value to the owner, what communication thing can you put in place that is better than everybody else, right? Everybody provides a weekly update. Whoop-de-doo. How do you make that special? Everybody provides a daily job report. How do you make that special, right? These are the things that you can do to improve the value of your value to your clients. And again, this could be a subcontractor to the GC, right? Like, what do you do to make their life easier, right? Because they're ultimately your client. The owner's your client too, but the GC is really your client. Okay. Third question, what advice do I have for those who are starting out? I've worked on some very big projects, right? I've jumped the ladder, if you will, in my career, right? Mainly through getting my license, getting my MBA simultaneously, getting into management. We did like 1.5 million square feet of educational facilities a year, which, is like 300 million in like design value a year for educational facilities. I did 100 million in um, healthcare, right? Again, being a senior engineer, being licensed, things like that, really jumped me up the track. So I skipped a lot of the, do small projects, work your way up, that type of thing until I started Cowbung Studios. Then it changed, right? And I've done design work, done uh, design work for clients, modeling for clients, software for clients, right? All these things. And the thing that really held me back that I should have been more open to is in the beginning, take anything and everything that you can. Say yes to everything. Do all of it. I was a lot more selective in the beginning, partially because I had enough runway to where I didn't need to take projects. But what I missed out on, and this is a lesson learned here, is what I missed out on by not taking some of those projects is I missed out on developing relationships with clients that I should have developed, right? I don't know where those relationships would have taken me. They could have taken me into software. They could have taken me into doing design work. They could have taken me a lot of places. I just have no idea where they could have gone because I didn't go down that road, right? I was more focused on software, on development, on that kind of thing versus helping the end client. And if you're focused on helping your end clients, right, with anything and everything that they need, you will succeed. Period. End of story. You don't know where that's going to take you. You might have an idea of what that can look like, but you ultimately don't know. You have no idea where that can lead you, what that's going to be, how that's going to turn out, right? Like you could ultimately be a partner in the firm, right? Maybe you buy the firm. And so you just don't know. So my recommendation to anybody starting out, in construction, right, is to, again, whether this is design, whether this is architecture, engineering, whether this is construction as a GC, a specialty trade, um, specialty contractor, whatever you are, right, through that is to take any and every project that you can, take things that may or may not make sense at the time, but you ultimately want to work with that client, right? So it'll make sense if you can help the client, even though it may or may not be completely in the sphere of work that you want to do. And Matt might disagree with me, right? This is my opinion alone. Um, but to take those projects, right? You never know where it's going to be. And there's going to be clients, even when you're big working on, like I had mentioned, right, 300 million worth of educational space a year, 100 million in healthcare. You're going to have those projects for those owners that are like bathroom remodels, right? But you do them because you're going to serve that client, and you didn't think twice about, like, in the engineering world, in the firms that I was in, we never thought twice about doing those little projects for those clients because it was serving that client. And I did not take that mindset with me in the beginning of Cowabunga Studios, and I should have, right? And now I've seen the error in my ways, and I'm working with clients that I want to work with, right? Doing whatever they want, again, within reason. This isn't like crazy, but everything in my wheelhouse, right? Whether it's doing drafting for them, whether it's building custom software for them, whether it's, them taking my stuff off the shelf and them using it, doing training for them, Revit training, like the whole kit and caboodle is available to them because they're clients that I want to work with. So again, for you and your business and starting out is to take on those projects, right? Work with those clients, develop those relationships. We talk about it here all the time. This is about the long game, right? Understanding what clients you want to work with, taking on the projects that get you in with those clients, making them happy, doing the right thing by them. And is there times where that project that you take just ultimately doesn't turn into a long-term thing that they kind of promised, and leave a carrot dangling out there? Yeah, I mean, charge accordingly for it. I think that's the other thing that kind of bites you is a lot of companies, especially in construction, dangle these carrots out there where, hey, if you give us a cheap price on this one, we're going to give you all the next ones, and rarely does that really happen. So be fair on price, be fair, make money, right? Like you need to make money. You can't lose money. This is not charity, but to be fair on your prices, do a good job, do well for them. And if you get the next one, great. If you don't, that's fine too. But you did what you did the best that you could for that client. You started to build a relationship with them, and you don't always know where that's going to go, right? It could turn into the client that you're with for the next 20 years. And those are the types of relationships you want to build. Those are the types of people you want to work with. And again, be fair on price, right? Don't lowball yourself out of it. But to be fair on price, make money on the job. Maybe you don't make as much, but again, build that relationship, start that conversation, and care about your clients at the end of the day. That's really what this boils down to, is to take care of your clients, take care of the people that are going to take care of you, and you'll be better for it. So those are my 3 topics for the day. I know this was a little briefer. It felt like pretty brief. There's some of this stuff like I could talk for days about, but we don't have days. You don't have days, and so maybe we do a workshop at some point or other. But for right now, that's what I got for you guys. Check out the shows on YouTube. Enjoy them, and I will talk to you guys later. Until next time.